So what is it that makes a horror story really scary? I mean, what makes it get under your skin? It's not always the monster, right? It's the method. And today, we're going to take apart a horror story piece by piece to see exactly what makes it tick. We're looking at a literal blueprint for suburban dread.
And it all kicks off with this one simple but honestly super chilling observation. Just think about it for a second. A neighbor who is always home, but you never ever see them leave. That's the hook. And just like that, a 4-year-long obsession is born. It's kind of relatable, it's definitely mysterious, and yeah, it puts you on edge immediately.
You see, the real genius of this story isn't just the plot, the what happens. It's all about how it's built. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to show you the deliberate, step-by-step architecture of fear that can turn a totally normal, quiet street into a stage for absolute horror.
All right, so every great horror story has to start with a solid foundation. And for this one, the most powerful tool it has is the setting. It's a place you feel like you already know, or at least you think you do.
And notice what's happening here. The story isn't kicking off with ghosts or some monster jumping out at you. Nope, it starts with something way more familiar, a totally average house in suburban Ohio, a neighbor who just keeps to herself. I mean, these are things we see all the time, right? They're so common, they're practically invisible. And that's the point. The storyteller takes that normalcy and turns it into a weapon, making even the smallest weird detail feel like a giant crack in the fabric of reality. This is a perfect example of what experts call the uncanny. It's not about something being totally alien or out there. It's when something familiar suddenly becomes strange. A house that looks just like all the others, but you just know it isn't. A neighbor who's physically there but doesn't seem to be part of the world at all. That feeling, that subtle unease, that's exactly what the story is designed to make you feel, right from the get-go.
Okay, so the foundation is set. Now the story needs an engine, right? Something to build that momentum. And it finds it in a slow burn suspense that hinges on one really powerful idea: routine. And just look at how precise this is. It's not just, oh, the lights come on in the morning. Nope, it's 6:47 a.m. every single day. This perfect, rigid, clockwork schedule, well, that's the real backbone of the dread in this story. It's so predictable that it becomes completely unnatural, and that makes it the perfect fuel for an obsession.
And this is where the story gets really, really clever. The narrator admits to keeping detailed notes since November 2021, and in doing that, the story makes us an accomplice. It mirrors our own growing curiosity. Suddenly, we're part of the surveillance. We're not just passively watching a story unfold, we're actively watching someone else watch, and we are just as desperate to know what happens next.
So one person's obsession is one thing, but to make that fear feel truly real, the story needs backup. It has to prove that our narrator isn't just going crazy or imagining things. And that's where the other neighbors come in. They provide what you could call social proof that something is definitely wrong here.
First up is Dale. What he says is pretty simple, but it's also incredibly powerful because it gives us a timeline. This isn't something new. The weirdness of that house has been this silent, unsettling part of the neighborhood for more than a decade. 11 years, he says. Then you've got Patricia, who's been there for 19 years, and her memory adds this whole other layer. It's not just about the neighbor being a recluse anymore, it's about a presence. She remembers a smile, just the smile. And it's so unnerving that it's stuck with her all this time. This little detail injects a feeling of active, creepy malice into the whole thing. And then there's Robert's story, about his daughter. Honestly, this might be the heaviest piece of the puzzle. It points to some kind of hidden trauma. His daughter's ball goes into the yard, she goes to the door, and she comes back without it. And to this day, she refuses to talk about what happened. It's terrifying because we don't know the full story. And what you don't know is always scarier. Okay, so at this point, the psychological dread is cranked all the way up to 11. And just then, the story makes its final shocking move. It completely pivots and turns this from a story about a strange neighbor into, well, something else entirely. The whole twist lands with this one simple but totally devastating contradiction. The facts just don't line up. See, she bought the house way back in 2007, but when our narrator finally gets a look at her, her age makes no sense. She hasn't aged a day. And that's the moment the story just shatters the laws of reality. Let that sink in for a second. 17 years.
For 17 years, she has apparently been in that house, completely untouched by the passage of time. That's the mind-bending impossibility we're left with.
And this is the final nail in the coffin. The narrator's own words, stated like it's just a calm, simple, impossible fact. The woman he saw was supposed to be 63 years old, but she didn't look it, not even close. It's as if time literally froze for her the second she walked through that front door all those years ago.
So now that we've laid out all the pieces, let's put the full blueprint together. Why does this work so well? What makes this structure so incredibly effective? Well, a big part of the answer is that it's perfectly built for the world we live in now, for the internet age.
It really all boils down to a pretty clear 4-step formula. Step 1, start with something normal, something we all recognize. Step 2, introduce a weird, unnatural routine to make us feel uneasy. Step 3, bring in other people to confirm our fears and show us we're not crazy. And finally, step 4, hit them with a supernatural twist that makes you rethink everything you just heard.
But what's really wild is that this blueprint isn't just about storytelling. It's actually built for how we consume things online. The whole strange neighbor idea, that's a universal theme, something tons of people search for. The story is packaged perfectly with the right title, tags, and thumbnail to get found. The horror isn't just in the narrative, it's in the engineering of the story.
And that brings us to the final and maybe most unsettling question. The reason this story gets under your skin is because it feels like it could be true, right? It takes those quiet houses with the drawn curtains that we all drive past every day, and it asks a really scary question. What would you find if you started paying a little closer attention? What blueprint for dread is hiding in plain sight right next door?